Hello everyone. Today we are going to do a few questions from mathematics, chapter polynomial. We are going to do a few questions from exercise 2.4, and particularly we will go to question number 4, factorize 12x square minus 7x plus 1. So that's our question. Polynomials, chapter 2, exercise 2.4, question number 4, and the sub question 1. That's a special question we are going to look at it today. So it tells you to factorize 12x square minus 7x plus 1. So actually the factorization can be done in two different ways of a second degree polynomial. As you can see the x square here. So you can either use a factor theorem of called the factorization method, or you can use splitting the middle term, which is what we are going to do now. So we are going to split the middle term of the question 12x square minus 7x plus 1. So before we actually go about splitting the middle term, which is 7x, we actually have to understand two terms called the sum and the product. So what do you mean by sum? Sum is the term that comes with x. So you see that there is a middle term here that is minus 7x. So this 7 comes with x. So if you look at the three terms, you will see one is in terms of x square, then you have got one with x, then you have got one last term with neither x square or x. So the last term with neither x square or x is called the constant. Whereas the middle term that is with x, so that's what we call sum. So if you look at the sum, you see that that is minus 7x. So we will only take the number part. So that is the coefficient of x. So sum is actually the coefficient of x. So you can see that. So what is the coefficient of x? That is 7. So that's the first term you have to understand in doing splitting the middle term. So we have got the sum that is 7. It's actually minus 7. Okay. So but we may not use the minus thing right now. The next thing you have to understand is the term called a product. So product is actually the product of, or you multiply the coefficient of x square, which is 12, and the constant term. So product, so how do you get the product is multiply the coefficient of x square and the constant. So what is the coefficient of x square? So you can see the x square here in the question. Say this is the x square. The coefficient means the number that comes before the variable. X square is the variable. So before x square you have got a 12. So that is the coefficient of x square. So we are going to put that here. So that is 12 times, then use itself and the constant. So you go to multiply the coefficient of the x square and the constant. Constant is nothing but the term that is with neither x square nor x. So your constant here is 1. So 12 times 1 is 12. So we have got two terms now defined. Your sum, which is equal to, let's say sum is equal to 7, and then you have got your product So which is equal to 12. So if we have defined or if we have found out these two terms, it is fairly easy from now on. What you have to do in the next step is that you have to find two numbers such that when added you get your sum 7. That means you have to find two numbers. When those two numbers are added, you actually have to get 7, and then when multiplied you have to get your product 12. So that's what you have to do now. Find two numbers when added you get sum, and that is 7, and when multiplied you get product that is equal to 12. So if you can find two such numbers, when added you get 7 and then when multiplied you get 12, your answer will be much simpler. So let us see what are those numbers. So in order to find this, let us look at the factors of 12. The factors of 12 are those numbers when multiplied you get 12. So let us begin with 1, because 1 in 12 goes 12 times, so let us put 12 together. Then another factor is 2. 2 in 12 goes 6 times, so we are going to write 6. Then another number is 3. 3 in 12 goes 4 times. So these are the factors of 12. 1, 12, 2, 6 and 3, 4. Now from all these factors, let us see which of these groups or pairs fit in the requirement. Two numbers when multiplied you get 12. Actually all these pairs when multiplied you will get 12. But which of them will give you 7 when added? So they are 3 and 4. So you can understand your numbers are 3 and 4, because these three numbers when added you can see that 3 plus 4 equals 7, and then you can see 3 times 4 equals 12. So all you have to do next is let's simply copy down the question for factorization. So that is 12x square minus 7x plus 1. So let's see. So what you do next is just simply write down the same thing. So that is 12x square minus, you got the 7x here, but instead of writing minus 7x, we are going to split your 7x into numbers of 3 and 4. So you will write that minus 3x minus 4x. So this is actually what we mean by splitting the middle term. Your middle term is 7x here. So you are going to split it into 3x and 4x. But how did you get your 3 and 4? Because those are the numbers that when added you get 7 and then multiplied you get your product 12. And then in the last step you can simply copy that plus 1 there. So far you have simply split your middle term. So your numbers are 3 and 4. We already know why it is 3 and 4, because those are the two numbers that fit our requirements. When added you get 7 and then when multiplied you get 12. So what you do in the next step is let's simply copy that question down. Now it is 12x square minus 3x minus 4x plus 1. So because you know where minus 3x and minus 4x comes. So what you have to do in your next step is that so you see that, so it means so in the next step we are going to separate the first two terms and the next two terms. So what we are going to do is we are going to simply write that question again. 12x square minus 3x minus 4x plus 1. So after having simply copied that question down, you have to put bracket for the first two terms and the next two terms. Something you got to be careful here is you got your minus 4x here. So let us see whether you will get minus 4x here. Minus multiplied by 4x is minus 4x, so that is fine. And after minus 4x you have got positive 1. So minus times positive 1 is negative 1, not positive 1. So we want a positive 1. So in order to get a positive 1, we are going to put a minus 1 here. So you use the bracket for the first pair of two terms, then the next two terms. So in the next step, what you have to do is, you see that 12x square minus 3x, they have got something in common. If you look closely, you will understand that is 3x, because 3x goes in 12x square, also it goes in minus 3x. So what is common in 12x square and minus 3x is 3x. We are going to take that outside the bracket. So let's say 3x. When 3x is taken out of 12x square, what remains is 4x, because 4x times 3x is 12x square. So you will understand that you are actually dividing 12x square by 3x when you say you are taking 3x outside the bracket. So 12x square divided by 3x is 4x. And then this 3x is also divided by the 3x that we have outside the bracket. So when 3x is divided by 3x, what is left is 1. So continuing, you got this minus sign from here. And the next two terms are 4x and minus 1. So you can see that what is common in 4x and minus 1 is only 1. So you take that 1 outside the bracket. Now start the bracket. When 4x is divided by the 1 that is outside the bracket, of course you have 4x. Then the 1 inside the bracket here is divided by the 1 outside the bracket. So you get 1. So far you have got your answer to be 3x times 4x minus 1 minus 1 times 4x minus 1. But you might note that this 4x minus 1 next to 3x and the 4x minus 1 next to minus 1 are same. That is something you should make sure, because when you do and when you reach this step, so you should get whatever is inside the bracket next to the first term and next to the second term, they should be equal. They should be one and the same. So you can see that 4x minus 1 is same as 4x minus 1 here. So what you do in the next step is pretty simple. You write this 3x here, and then you see this minus 1. You write the minus 1 next to 3x. Then you put that in the bracket, and then you can put the 4x minus 1 here times the 4x minus 1. So these are the factors of your actual question. 12x square minus 7x plus 1. So when 12x square minus 7x plus 1 is factorized, you get 3x minus 1 and 4x minus 1 as the factors. So let me write that question again. So you got 12x square minus 7x plus 1 equals 3x minus 1 times 4x minus 1. So 3x minus 1 times 4x minus 1 are the factors. Okay, maybe factors of the same question. Okay. So this is your final answer. So in this question we have only used splitting the middle term. So in the next part I will show you how to use factor theorem to find the factors of the same question, 12x square minus 7x plus 1. Thank you.